Tired of the hype about living the dream? It's time for truth. This is the place for tools, power, and real talk so you can create the life you dream and deserve. Your ultimate life. Subscribe, share, create. You have infinite power.
Hello and welcome to this episode of Your Ultimate Life, the podcast I created some years ago to help interested people live a life of purpose, prosperity, and joy by serving with their skills, their gifts, and their life experience. And today I have a special guest with me today, Steve Hardison. Steve, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Kellan. Nice to be here.
Well, I'm glad. I'm grateful to get to hear your perspective on things. We don't have an agenda, and I often start by asking people a question about what they do, and I don't mean that in a traditional sense. The way I frame it is, without being anything except truthful, tell me how Steve adds good to the world.
Oh, well, for whatever reason, I maybe could describe it or explain it, but I'm not sure. It's just not something that's inside me. Since I was a little boy, I've always liked to see people happy or smile. And I realized I had some impact on that by how I was with those people. So from a little boy till right now, when I go out in the world, I'm really looking at a place to have people be happy or to enjoy life. And they do it in the small things. I've got my sister-in-law here. She doesn't know this is going to happen. She's here, picked up my wife, and they've gone on a sister's date. She left her car here. They'll be gone 3 days. I've went in through the garage and see that the car's been in the rain. I know she likes the Diamondbacks. I know her husband likes Diamondbacks. I have some relationship with the Diamondbacks. I got some jerseys from the Diamondbacks. I got car wash certificates. I'll go get her car washed and leave two shirts in there, one for you and one for Jenny, or one for Jenny and one for Dick. And I'm not thinking about that. That's the way the day goes. If I go into a grocery store and I walk down 2 or 3 aisles, I know I'm going to find an older lady that's in there shopping, and she's just gotten her hair done. It's easy to tell. And I go find the lady and say, "Your hair looks beautiful today." Day after day, I'm looking for ways to have life be great, help life be better, be joyful in a very simplistic way. I'm so simple.
I love that. And thanks for sharing those two examples. It's interesting. I had a client I was talking to yesterday, and one of the things he was working on, and he's a youngster, he's in his late 20s, was relationship. And he was so excited to describe to me something that he'd done that reminded me of for his wife, because she was gone and he did some things for her, right? And while she was gone. And she was so happy, and just to describe the interaction and reaction that he experienced and his exuberance at experiencing that, and then deciding, I get to do that. I create that. And we had started with sort of the premise that even though we don't control other people, who we are, what we do, like that kind of stuff, has such an influence. And so it's like somebody who's intentionally being something has such power that you don't think you have, And
it just is a natural fun for me. I love it if someone comes knocking on the door selling something, or if someone, even if they call on the phone, I try to see what I can do and have it be fun. Guy comes the other day, knocks on the door, selling solar paneling, and I say, I have no interest in solar paneling, but I'm very interested. Have you had anything to drink? And have you used the restroom? He says, I'd love to do both. I invite him in. I tell him I'm not interested in solar, but I've listened to him a little bit about his life, find out what he's interested in reading, and I give him a book and I wish him a good day.
And that's exactly, I in the interview I did this morning with those other gals, the Coaching Thursday episode, one of the things that they observed when I asked them each, how did you decide, what were the set of events that led you to be I call it the people encouragement business, or blind spot protection service, or anxiety annihilation business. I got a lot of fun names for coaching, but what drew you there? And both of them told me stories in their life where they had some challenges and overcame them. And as a result of that, there sort of rose up this natural desire to be of service. And it was interesting that we were observing that almost always is the case. When we learn and when we grow, something happens, right? And we want to be of service. You said even when you were a kid, you like seeing people happy.
Yeah.
Tell me some of the events in your life that either reinforced that or created that natural tendency that you have to tell grandma in the store that her hair's outrageously cool, or whatever it is. Like, tell me something about that.
Well, I think probably because of the lack of it in my own life. When I was young, my father and mother didn't care much for each other. My dad attempted to take my mother's life. My mother took 5 children away from the home and raised them by herself. I was the youngest of 5. So I'm assuming that I saw plenty of pain and, things that weren't good. And so probably the real core of it was to actually find and create happiness because there wasn't some right where I was at. That's probably what had me begin doing it. And I would look at it and try to find where I could find something at school. It'd be like that everywhere. So it just became a search for something that was probably not in myself. That's probably the seed of it. And now it's just become delightful. You could throw me in another country with no passport, no money, no ID, no anything. I'd be fine. I'd talk to someone, I'd sign language. Pretty soon I'm eating with them. Next thing you know, they've invited me to stay at their home and we're sign languaging. And humanity to me is an absolute creation. Every conversation. I am thrilled for every conversation I can have during the day with anybody. No pressure on it, no to-do list, just the natural state of being. If I got up from here right now and just walk down the street, begin with whatever's there, or whatever happens, it's just a pleasant experience for me. But I think what I told you is probably where it started from. There just wasn't much of it where I was at.
And it's probably a progression, when did it happen that, okay, let's assume that that's right. I didn't see this. The natural desire is to have that happiness, so you went about creating it for others. When did it become conscious for you that that this is who I am? I'm gonna do that. Be that, to a creator of possibility and and happiness and excitement and all that. Did that become like a thing that you do ever, like on purpose?
I did spent a lot of time thinking about my thinking as a kid. There'd be times on a farm, I'd go out into this little shed and I would think about what I'm thinking. And I would think about what's going on in life. And I remember having conversations with my mom about, why do people say something and do another thing? I was probably about 8. And I started realizing that people say stuff, and I put like that was a little guide over here. It'd click. They said they would do that. And did they end up doing it? And then I started noticing that there's a bunch over here, like 10 things, and one got done. And I started thinking, if this and this equaled, it would bring a lot of happiness to the person being promised something and the person promising. So those little ideas popped into my head in a little shed on my grandfather's property. I can even remember the particles of dust between the 2x4s where it came in. I could see the little sparkles and think, why am I thinking about thinking? So I've been inquisitive. And when I was young, I didn't think it was a good thing my mom was saying, but she'd say, this is Steve, he's hyperactive. So that wasn't a compliment. And I can remember teachers would say, somebody get some rags and stick them in that kid's mouth. Shut him up. I remember a 5th grade teacher telling me that. I just had so much energy, which really was an expression myself of wanting to love or to be accepted, that it just poured out of me. And then I've had to maturely work with how to have that be socially acceptable without having people being freaked out about how can somebody love it? Somebody doesn't know.
I did two things. One, I love the description about those little particles of dust, because there was a woodshed on my uncle's farm, and we just always called it the woodshed, and it didn't have a front side. It had three sides and a roof, but it was open, and that's where we stacked all the wood, long pieces and pieces from the pasture and stuff like that. And I remember the sun shining through those cracks, and the roofs of those were always just that silver tin, the silver tin roofs. Yeah. And see the dust particles. And so when you describe that, I remember seeing that dust in the air that the sunlight would show. So the second, that you just said something that's interesting to me. And I say this very same thing, and I don't remember if it was because I heard you say it or I said it I don't know. But the idea that we see all around us people that hate other people they don't know, or they think they do, and they express it and they act it and they language it and even act it out. And so if I can do that, then of course I don't need to know you to love you. I can love you anyway. And I said that, I've said that a lot of times in different talks, and you'd said it just now. I want you to talk about that, because I've had people, deeply inquisitive, some just sort of reject, but some deeply inquisitive about that. And then they pose real life situations of conflict and struggle and want to explore how that would work in those kind of difficult situations. Could you talk a little bit more about that idea of loving people you don't even know?
Yeah. For me, it begins with the concept that here I am, and then there's somebody else over there, whatever. They say something or I say something, and that's an invention. Before I even see somebody, I'm thinking thoughts about them in my mind of who they are. We do that. We look at someone and we think thoughts. And so there begins part of the creation. And mine is saying, hey, there's something over there, and I'm making some ideas up about the something. Then the something speaks, and because of my decision, I say that means this or this. What if I already decided that this person, I'm going to listen from them to find something I call looking for the gold, find something that I can find agreement with, or something that's really good about it, instead of something that's not. Because most of the time we're looking at judging, and I've created an idea where I look to bless somebody rather than judge them, and I see something different. And I'll give you an example, the one that comes to my mind. There are hundreds of these. I'm driving a little sports car down the street right here in Mesa, Arizona, McKellips. There's a shopping center called Fry's. And these three cowboys with the windows rolled down, music going loud, big cowboy hats on, pull out in front of me, and they're flipping me the bird. They're leaning outside the windows, flipping me the bird, yelling at me, effing me. And I slow down and I say, what's up? And they, swear, say things and say, you just pulled out in front of us, you arrogant. And I looked right at him. I said, I didn't see you. I'm so sorry. I didn't see you. Man, their hands come in, they change the way they are instead of me forcing back at them or doing something. So it's practice over time of loving people in spite of what goes on. They were viciously mad at me. And if I were over where they at and thought somebody did that on purpose, I might be too. I might handle it a little differently, but that's a real situation where these three guys would like to grab me and snuff me around, and me simply apologizing and saying, I didn't see you, I wouldn't purposely do that. And they got that.
So that's a fabulous example of two things. One, of a behavior that you have chosen that has become ingrained in you. So when people start on that road, they have to, notice and choose. I'm upset, or I could be upset. What am I going to choose? And they use the wedge or that space in there to make a decision. But after you do it for a long time, it becomes your natural thing, because that's who you have become. I have become a person who gives love and who understands just because I decided to do that. And I want to mention that because sometimes, at least my experience is, when you talk with people about that, they're like, how do you can't do that. No, like I have to be mad first.
Yes.
And if that's where you live, you can start there, but you can go somewhere else.
Yes.
You know, like from where I'm sitting to the sunrise or sunset or whatever that is in the background. So that's exactly right. Tell me what changes for you or someone, one of our listeners, who does that, who learns that habit of loving or understanding or some other thing like that someone might consider impossible. What happens in their life when they learn to do that?
Well, I think, so first of all, I'm not sharing with any of your audience they ought to do this or this is the thing to do. This is just possible.
Yeah.
Because for some people, it may be scare them to death to do that. But what I believe is that we create our future in the present moment. I'm answering the question you're asking for the person listening. Someone who says, I can't do that. That's just not possible for me to do. They're creating that future that's not something they can do. So frequently, I'll create experiences where I make up, it's going to be a great experience when no one would think you can't have that be a great experience. And I'm going to give you an example of this one. And I spoke this in front of about 550 people in London. A question came up, and I call it the tow truck driver distinction. I was driving back from California in a little sports car that doesn't have a spare tire. So when my tire blows out, you don't change your tire. So I'm out in 110-degree weather, flat tire. I call, the gal says, Porsche Roadside Assistance. May I help you? I said, yeah, I've got a flat tire. And she tells me how long I'm going to be in the desert waiting for a tow truck. Well, I already decided before I called, this is going to be a great experience. So I said, that's perfect. I got a lot of stuff I can do right here. And I'm sure she's in this Porsche place going, who's this nut? And I say, so can you have whoever's going to call me ahead of time and give me updates? So it's going to be about an hour and a half. I'm going to be here. So I'm not in my mind going, where'd my hour and a half go? Because I know my wife's waiting for me to get home. I'm like, how am I going to have this be a good experience? And I'm consciously doing that before it occurs. After it occurs, a little bit too late because your natural, whoever you are, is going to show up. So she calls a little bit later. It's sweaty. It's hot. She calls a little bit later and she tells me we're going to be about 45 minutes later, but she tells me who's going to be picking me up, the tow truck. I said, that's fine. I got some more things I can do. And I could also be pissed. I could also, sit in resentment. And I say, do you know who's going to pick me up? She says, you mean the tow truck driver? I said, yeah. She said, yes. I said, can you get him a message? She said, you want me to get a message to the tow truck driver? I said, please. Now, can you imagine this lady at the other end? You know what she's used to? Give me my tire. What's going to go on? Who I am? What is this?
Right. Of course.
And she says, I know it's Mike, but what message do you want me to get to Mike? Tell Mike that he's picking me up and we're going to have more fun going from Indio to Mesa Drive than he's ever had in his life. And she says, you want me to tell the tow truck driver that? I said, yes, please. Well, Mike picks me up. We have unbelievable time. I decided to do that before it happened. People always do it. They go like this. We're going out with the Smiths. That's going to be a pain in the butt. So they already create a pain in the butt going out with the date. I don't create future nonsense. I create something that's going to be great. And then I come from that. And it's amazing what can happen. That gentleman, his name is Mike. I posted on Facebook, him in my home holding a book. He comes and helps me get the stuff out of my car, drives me to get the car fixed. This is a guy that's 28 years old. I learned all about him. Find out his brother died. Everything that was just great. 2-hour drive. We get in the cab of the truck and I say, what are you listening to? And he says, it's heavy metal. And he turns it down. I said, well, turn it up. So he turns up the heavy metal. And I'm rocking with him to heavy metal. And I says, who do you think created heavy metal? He says, I think it was Ozzy Osbourne. And I tell him about a time I was in Salt Lake and I was at a little party with Ozzy Osbourne. And we just connected. True story, written up, fun.
I absolutely believe every word of it, partly because, well, just because I do. So the idea that you expressed ties into that loving. I'm creating love before the experience. Therefore, I can love someone I don't know. I'm creating a lot of fun with Mike before he even gets here. And it's a choice that you make to have this 2 hours plus hour and a half, this 4 hour, 3.5 hour, 4 hour window in the afternoon be a joyful, fun experience that you created in your mind before any of it happened.
Yes. And by the time we got to my house, we were such friends. He came in, met my wife. I gave him a book, take a picture of him with the book, and posted a little bit about the story. Nicholas Smith, you've heard of Nicholas Smith.
Yeah, I know Nick.
Yeah, Nick is the one who really instigated this because I was dropping off books for him in California. He said to me, "How are you create miracles ahead of time?" I said, I'm headed back to Utah. Back to Arizona. I have no idea what's in front of me, but I promise you I'm going to have some kind of miracle I create. I'll let you know about it when I get home. So I talk to Nick and I tell him, if you want to get an update on whatever's going to go on, just call me later. So while I'm in that truck with the guy rocking out to heavy metal, the phone rings. Guess who it is?
Nick, of course.
Nick Smith. I say, "Nick, what's up?" He says, "Are you having a miracle?" I said, "Yeah, I'm with Mike." And Nick Smith's listening to us rock out to Metallica. I decided ahead of time to create something, and we do all the time. We decide who we're going to be now, and in 10 minutes, and in a weekend, and in an interview, and when we meet someone we don't like. We decide now. And I decide right now where I'm at. How do I have fun? How do I love? How do I be forgiving? How do I be open? And I'm never accused of being too soft. I'm direct. I say what's so for me. I don't beat around the bush. And I love people.
And you do. And, I've had the opportunity to have some experiences with you before this time and outside of this context. And so I can just say that I know that that's true from my own experience. One of the things that you've spent a lot of time doing in the last many years is something people call coaching, which is, a sacred calling that we choose to be of encouragement and of support and love in some fashion to those who look to us for that blessing and service. What got you into that activity? What brought you to where that's what you do?
I think the initial seed of that happened a long time ago from my mother, and then a little later from Warner Earhart. From my mother, she always taught me to do more than I was paid for. Mm-hmm. And no matter what I was doing, she'd say, "Do more than you're paid for." So if I went to mow a yard, she'd say, "Did you mow the other person's yard?" I'd say, "They didn't hire me. We'll go back and mow it anyway." And she would say, "Do more than you're paid for." So somehow in me as a young man, it became really fun for me to outserve whatever I was paid. So I never worked for money. I worked for a place to serve, and I was then paid. So that idea was in my head as a young man. Then I went to the forum, which was Warner Earhart's Landmark Education, and I saw people talking about, "Can I coach you? Can I coach you?" They would these forum leaders would be wanting to coach the people in the room. I didn't even know what the term really meant, but I saw the impact that had, and I realized, wow, that's something really, really powerful. And at that time, I was the president of a semiconductor company. And I decided to leave that and really didn't understand the idea of coach, never set out to be a coach, back into it, don't even care about the word. Whatever it's called. And I began in my office in my backyard that used to be a shed. And I just began having conversations with people to see how I could serve them no matter what was going on. And it got its name put underneath this thing called coaching. But it's really my intention, if I'm with someone, paid or non-paid, and I'm listening from a place to contribute to what it is they're talking about. And somehow that talent or ability gets pretty good at helping at things, and people want that. And somehow it's called the coach. I'm I retired as a coach April of 25. I didn't require out of service. I didn't require out of being. I retired from actually professionally sitting with someone as a business opportunity and doing what was called coaching. But as me as a human being, nothing's changed for me, except I have more time, and I'd rather have time than money.
So that's a great description. Sitting with people and looking for the opportunity to serve them and bless them. So I know you've given us examples. You've given us examples of the lady in the grocery store and Mike in the tow truck. And in coaching in a professional capacity where someone's paying you to sit with them in that same way and listen to them, looking for the opportunities to help, as you described it. Give me an example now that is in the paid capacity where that happened, which comes from the same place, because you aptly noted I've retired professionally from doing that, but I'm the same dude. So I'm still making that happen because that's who I am, not a jacket I put on. It's who I am. But give me an example of a coaching type situation that someone might have come to you with, or that's business related that might come to mind.
A regular thing that happened yesterday.
Okay.
My wife and I teach 16-year-olds in Sunday school. So we have about 15, 16-year-olds. And we just started recently. And I got all of their email addresses, their phone numbers, so I could text them. And I have individually text them to know about their life. And I've gone and I've seen some of them playing soccer, and I've seen some of them run track. And I've become personally acquainted with them because they're in my world. They're now the people that would be whoever else it is, except it's these 16-year-old kids. And yesterday, when my wife left, we got a new barbecue, and I knew the old barbecue didn't work anymore. It's big. It's a big thing that's got to be taken out, and the company that brings the barbecue in, they don't take old barbecues. So I'm going to have to move this barbecue out. So yesterday, I think, man, who would this be an opportunity for? And so I call a gentleman and I say, hey, do you know any young guys that would like to make some money doing this? And he said, one of the kids that's in my Sunday school class. And I said, that's a great idea. So I call this young man up. Hey, Quinn, this is Brother Hardison. How are you? Hey, let me tell you what I got going on. We bought a new barbecue. I got to get rid of the old barbecue. I could pay somebody to come and get it, or I could hire you and you could get it. Would you like a little job for taking this barbecue out? And he says, yeah. And I said, that's big. It's going to take more than one person. Probably take 4 people to lift it. But I'm going to hire you, and it's going to be your job. You take care of the barbecue, and I'm going to pay you. He said, I'd love to do that. I said, okay. What do you think it would be worth? And he said, I'd do it for $75. And I said, can I counter that? He said, sure. I said, I think 150 is more like it. And he said, what? I said, yeah, 150. So here it is. Come to my house, look at it, see it. You get $150. I'm not going to have any other conversation with you. Take the barbecue. This is a business deal. And he was so thrilled to do that. I come into my office. I wrote a check for $200. I take it over to his house, to his dad, and say, here's what I did with Quinn. He's still at school. And if he can have it moved by tomorrow, there's a $50 tip. I wake up this morning, my barbecue is not there. Anybody who does business with me wins, including any client, anybody who accidentally bumps into me. And Quinn said to me, that was different. That was a different experience. Yeah, I want every experience I have with someone that they win, and it was valuable and it was worth it. So I say to Quinn, you remember that book that I gave you wanted to read? I said, the editor of that book, his name's Chris Nelson. He edited the book. My wife did all the work with him. My wife says, you need to negotiate with Steve on whatever it is on the payment. I'll do all the stuff with you on the book. Chris communicates with me. He has a screen with the bid on it and stuff to question. I said, this is really good, Chris. I just want to make a counter offer to you. He said, okay. And I would, let's say his things was X thousands of dollars. I says, I'll do it under one condition. We do it X plus $3,000. He said, Steve, no one has ever done that with me. I don't do things the way normal people do them. Any of them. Listen, create, coach, love. I don't have a set of rules. I don't have anything to do. When I'm sitting listening to someone, I'm hearing way beyond what they say. My mind's listening, my heart's listening, my soul's listening. They understand that guy is interested in me, and it doesn't take too long. Now you put that with a committed person that really is up to something, that's where miracles come from. I have no special gift or talent like some this or that, except being with someone and being committed to someone. And if you put this with another one like this, you got miracles. I don't mean like it's got to be me. I mean, it's someone that's like committed to what they say they're going to do, and then we them together. This young guy, when I went over to take this check to his dad, he called right while I'm on the front porch, and he says, hey, I'm not at home. I said, I know I'm at your house. He says, I talked to my dad. I said, great. And I said to his father, I helped my two sons create a commercial real estate. This kid's 16. I said, I would hire your son right now ahead of time for when he's 21 back from where he'd go on a service mission. That's how much I see. All I got to do is talk to him for that little while. So there's an example. It's like, oh, here's this one. This will be more fun. I do an 8-mile walk or run every morning, except Sunday morning. Here in Arizona, it's already warm. So you got some people out on the streets early, people that are homeless, they're holding the sign, will work for food, donate something. And right down here on my street, Gilbert, I see a guy as I walk by, and he's holding up a sign, and I realize he's against the traffic, because where he's standing with that light, when people are going, he's standing there, they can't stop while they're going. He's working against himself. So I see that. I walk over to him and I say, can I help you with your business? Picture this, there's traffic going on. This is a guy that's a street, whatever you want to call him, homeless person or trying to raise money. And he said, and he's got a tooth about every other tooth. And I said, can I help you? And then I explained to him, you want to be able to walk when these people are driving, because while they're driving, they can't stop and give you something. So if they're coming to turn left, you're walking toward it. When you're stopped is when they're all parked, you're walking by the window so they can give you something. I just turned his whole game around. Then I taught him what to do with it. Then I went on the side of the road and made sure he did it. There you go.
So I love both those examples. And what you said while you were describing that is you're listening with your ears and you're listening with your mind and your heart and your soul listening. And you said, I hear way beyond what they're saying. And I'm absolutely certain people listening to this would say, gee, how do I do that? Because clearly two things. One, it makes it very attractive to be with you because people don't get listened to like that. And the other thing is they want to be able to have that kind of impact on people. So what did you or do you do to become, because it's not a jacket you put on, to become so that you have that attunement to listen with all of those different layers, without agenda, without thought, just this is who I am and how I show up. What creates that?
Well, I don't know where this came. Most of the stuff, I don't know where it came from, where I got ideas or who gave them to me. There's probably none of them that are my own. They're just things I've learned or experienced. But one of the things, the idea I have is that energy follows attention. Wherever you put your attention, there's where the energy will go. Like if I go like that, you come over and hear this. If I slap this book, you're over here. Your energy follows your attention. So if I can put my attention here, my energy will be here. So when I'm listening, I'm not thinking about something else, or my energy will go with that attention. Oh, I got a meeting at 4. I have ideas, but I'm working time to just be here to get all the energy where my attention is. So when I'm listening or talking to someone, I'm with them. I am interested in what they're saying. And if someone listened to that, but there's not a bad conversation anywhere from that place. It's an amazing thing. I can remember working with an executive who, I'll leave his name silent because this is about his wife. And I coach him for 12 or so years. About year 2, he says, my wife would like to meet you. I said, okay. So she comes, we set up a time, she sits and meets me. I just talked to her. I'm listening to her. I ask her simple questions. She starts crying. I said, do you want to share with me what that's about? And she said, I have never been listened to like this before in my life. She gets her phone. She texts her husband. She says, I don't care where we get the money. I want to work with this man. I'm not pitching her. I'm not trying to get a client. I'm meeting his wife. I can't explain it. I can't put it in a recipe. I know this, that it would be nice, and it is always nice to know who you're talking to. Are they married, or what do they do, or how old are they, how many kids? I don't need to know any of that. All I need to do is be with someone in an authentic conversation, in a committed space, to be useful. That I do know. That's all I need in a room or in a conversation with myself.
But you really have given a recipe all the way through. The recipe is, I choose to love. I choose to love with singular focused attention, where all of my energy is in this space here now, not some when or somewhere else. And then after doing that, I choose to take that input colored with love, with total focused attention, and turn it to how I can bless and lift and serve that person. So there is the recipe.
Well, it's okay. I'll go with that. And with me, so you know, I make tons of mistakes as I attempt to do these things. And that's why many people wouldn't. I've been, not literally punched in the nose, but like, who do you think you are? I can't believe you'd say that to me. So I pay the price of growth that many people wouldn't. They just wouldn't. So when I say it's not a recipe, it's like I have taken so many attempts. I have scored a lot of points, but I have missed a lot of baskets. And so I'm under construction. I'm not the it, but I am not afraid to speak with or attempt to serve or love or help in any situation. My mind does not have me back out.
Well, I wasn't trying to codify what you described, and I'm certain because the world in general, energetically, is not like that. People do not love because they choose to be that. They do not listen with that focused attention, and I'm very moved by that feeling, and I know what that's like. Yes. To express that feeling of to listen in that way, and then to make a choice to be of service. And if there are, I don't even know that they're mistakes, Steve. I would say our effort, yours, mine, anybody's effort to turn what we've done into some service, because the world isn't built like that, can easily be misunderstood, rejected, or even if it's true, it's like, I'm not ready for that here now. How dare you, kind of thing.
Yes. Yes.
Well, I want you to just close your eyes for a minute if you want to, and just think, if you're listening to if you think about a group of people, 550, 1,000 people, 10,000 people who would listen to this episode about creating a life of purpose, prosperity, and joy. That's why they come to this show, to hear different thoughts about that. What would you say to someone who is yearning to create a more a higher level of purpose, prosperity, or joy, or whatever words make sense to you in that context, what would you say to them?
First of all, let me say something in front of it, and that's this. I can answer that question, and when I do answer it, if you would ask me yesterday or in 3 days or later today the same question, it would have a different answer, not like the different right answer, it would just be different of the space and time and everything, including any of the questions that you've asked me. The answer would be here, sometime later it would be here, and it's not like it's moving, it's like there's more to it than just one answer. So, but in this space where I'm at now, in the conversation we're in, what comes to me is if we could actually forgive ourselves for the judgments we have against ourselves, we have a better opportunity of creating anything. But we're many times blinded to our own judgment of our nothingness, our no goodness, our inability. And we can't like PMA it or goal it out. It's like getting clear with oneself. I forgive myself for judging myself as worthless, and get off the idea that I'm worthless. Get off the idea that I'm incapable. We have so much negative thought in underneath. It's what I call putting frosting on dog poop. We're not dog poop, but the ideas are. So it's to take away the negative that's already in the mind of most people. If someone said around and just look, what's my non-useful thoughts of myself today? What have I thought? Most people brutalize themselves most of the day. Imagine converting that energy into, like, here's a little notebook. Just while I was waiting for you, I'm reading it. And this is what I'm putting through my mind instead of that nonsense. You are that the purpose of your life is to see how many different people you can love, learn from, and serve in one lifetime. You are that you love your God, you love your neighbors, you love yourself with all your heart, mind, and strength. You are that you experiment daily with different ways of expressing and receiving divine love. It's 2 pages of ideas that I've created for myself to be while I'm waiting for us to be on this together. I'm not sitting here thinking, oh, when he gets here, am I going to fail? Am I any good? What do I need to say to be? I'm not doing that. I'm doing the opposite of that. So in this particular place, at this particular time, with this particular question, that's how I'd answer it. With some other background we're talking about, I may say something else. But I know there isn't anybody, any of your listeners, who just like, they're just really fine with who they are. I'm just in love with and I'm not challenging them. It's just so easy to get in our own way with our own mind. And that mind, that voice, is the most familiar voice we have. We listen to it more than any. I call it God with the small g. And I am putting God with the small g and things I want in my mind, not things that come from my history or mishap or upset. I'm planning how to have a good time with the tow truck driver. I'm planning who to love before they get here. I'm planning who I'm going to be. So first place to start might be for someone to think, what things do I say to myself that aren't really encouraging to me? Because we would not talk to a good friend like we talk to us. And we're unaware of it. Most people are unaware of it.
Steve, I'm grateful because knowing that means that you spent some time thinking about that before we had this call. And I acknowledge that, and I want to honor that. I'm grateful for the kindness and the wisdom, particularly about forgiveness, self-forgiveness, the need to just love, heart, mind, and strength. I love that you said that, and thank you. Thank you for sharing your heart, your wisdom, and your just joy with us today.
Kellan, thank you for your years and years of contribution to humanity, the things you've written, the lectures you've given, the things you've written, everything that you've done. You've spoken, the time you've taken to train yourself, the time you've taken to do all these interviews. I appreciate you and I love you.
Well, I love you too. Thank you. Listeners, I want you to take the opportunity to go back through this. And, before Steve and I started, he said, well, it'll be all simple. And it was anything but, and it was completely simple. simple choices to create your heart, your life, and move forward as only you can to create your ultimate life.
Never hold back and you'll never ask why. Open your heart and this time around.
Right here, right now. Your opportunity for massive growth is right in front of you. Every episode gives you practical tips and practices that will change everything. If you want to know more, go to KellanFluckigerMedia.com. If you want more free tools, go here, YourUltimateLife.ca. Subscribe. Share.
Stand with your heart in the sky and your feet on